possibly with the Department of State and the U.S. Consulate. And, it's just important to understand that it is not refusal. It's a continued verification before issuing the actual visa. And what's happening is the timeline is what people are suffering from. Is the timeline can go from days to weeks to months, and that's the biggest challenge I think everyone faces. But the more important point is to be very specific that you do not provide, they'll provide you a list of documents. Sometimes if it's a security clearance where they're doing some data background checks, there's nothing to do. You just have to wait. If it is beyond a security clearance and they're asking for documentation, it's our job to the applicant's job to provide very specifically the items required. And don't follow up right away. Wait for 60 to 90 days to see if there's any response. Do not submit unsolicited documents, which are documents that are not requested. So again, administrative processing means your visa can possibly be approved, whereas when we're talking about a denial of a 214B, we're talking about an actual refusal because the officer. You always have to remember when you are applying for a visa, there's a presumption that you have immigrant intent, and your job is to overcome that immigrant intent by demonstrating documentation, ties to your home country, that you're going for only to the United States for a temporary period, and you, upon completion of your training, you will come back to bring those skills to your country and implement them to make the lives better of everyone in your country. Now, so the type of documentation that you have to show to overcome that immigrant intent is actually taking certain documentation with you to the consulate at the time of interview. You have to show strong financial documentation that you have either your own property, you have strong bank balances, that you have sufficient ties over here. Number two, you might be married, you have children, they may be there. If you're single, it's a little more difficult, but perhaps, property ownership, also that you also have possibly most important, very strong evidence, which was very significant to demonstrate ties to your home country, include potentially employment opportunities and a letter of intent from employers in the home country. If it's a hospital, if it's a private practice, if it's your parents' practice, if it's your brother's practice, that they're giving a letter saying that once they complete their training, they're coming back here to work with us. So essentially, that's what it is in a nutshell. This is the 221G versus 214B and how to overcome that. What other questions do you want me to cover, or do you have specific questions about this? Ooh, we can't hear you.
Okay. Sorry. We can take the questions from the audience later. Let's go with first the panelists, and then we can answer their questions from the chat box. I think first 40 minutes or so, let's do the panelists questions and answers, and then we'll go ahead and ask the audience if they have any questions. So the next question I have is for, well, before I say that, Amit has worked very hard to put this together, the president of API. He's in Europe doing an API trip and he could not join us. He has been trying, so hopefully he will join later. And Deepu Sudhakaran, who also worked very hard to put this together. He's the chair-elect of AMA IMG section, and he could not join because he had an emergency this morning. He's a surgeon. So he was called in this morning to the OR for an emergency. So, hey, that's surgeon's life, right? So that he'll be joining us later if he does the surgery in time. But I'll be asking questions to all the panelists here. So the next question to Dr. Shahzad. Dr. Shahzad, you have guided a large number of IMG physicians through the visa process over the years. So, based on the cases we are seeing now, what interview preparation strategies seem most important for applicants with prior observership experience or extended US stays? Could you answer that, please?
Sure. First of all, welcome to you all as well as the participants, the J1 applicants to this webinar. And I thank API as well as Dr. Amit for putting this together. It's very timely and very important because as you all know, around 200 J1 visas were denied recently in India, which is very alarming number because India is the number one provider of IMGs, followed by Pakistan. So we, in the Southeast Asia, we provide a lot of physicians. So we have, important role to play in U.S. healthcare system. Coming towards your question, uh, I've been dealing with the visa-related problem with mostly Pakistani applicants for visit as well as with the J1 and H1. Every year, the consulates, embassies, they pick one thing, one item, and they really focus on that. For last 2 years, they've been focusing on the previous visits on B1. So if we go back, whenever we apply for B1, which is visit visa, B1, B2, most of physicians, students require for observership as well as their rotations in their medical school if they want to do a rotation at a university here. So they need B1, B2. So while we're filling B1, B2 application, there is a question, when do you want to go, for how long you want to stay, where you're going to stay, so that information is available to the to the visa officer for future interviews. So most of residents who are applying for J1, they have done B1, B2 in the past and written 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, as well as they have provided those letters of invitation where they were going to do rotation, internship, or observership. Also, when applicants arrive at the airport, there is a recording of their communication with the immigration officer for how long you are going to stay. Now, it's very important that you honor what you requested for and what you asked for and what you told the visa officer as well as the immigration officer. So right now, what's happening that I can give few examples from Pakistani residents that one resident was staying over 2 years period for 19 months. And, honestly, the applicants need only 3 letter of recommendation, which is 3.5 months. Sometime you're going for step 3, which will be 2 weeks. So maximum 4 months stay. The visa officer or the immigration officer, they expect you to stay. We should understand the millions of visitors visit US, and if everybody comes for 1 month but stays for 6 months, you can understand the issue with hosting hotel rooms, their transportation, everything. So they're enforcing this for the doctors for last 2 years. Now, what has happened. You can't change it. So how to handle that during the visa process when you go for interview for J1? So almost we have, we've seen all the question answers shared on the group. Everybody's asked, did you go for B1, B2? Did you go for observership? Answer is yes. Did you do observership? Answer is yes. How much time did you request in DS 160? 1 month. How did you stay 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, over 1 or 2 year period? So that's the problem. You can see that you did not honor your request. You did not do respect the law of the land. Now, some of the applicants applying for this year might not be accepted in the previous match. So they have an excuse. They can simply say, officer, first of all, I was not aware of, I was following I-94, which usually gives you 180 days for one-time visit. So that's the one way that I was not familiar with, that I need to stay only 1 month. at 2 months. Yes, I requested for 1 month, but I got an opportunity for extra observership. If I knew the fact that I should go back and come back again, I would have done that. But I was looking at I-94, which was allowing me 180 days, and I was following my I-94 record. And you have to be apologetic that you did a mistake and you don't want to do it again. So that's the attitude you need to show to the visa officer. And now you should also prove what you did. Like if you were staying for 6 months, were you doing observership, or were you doing step 3 or doing something else? For that, you need those invitation letters from those doctors you were doing observership, or the university letter where you were doing the rotations. And then you should be showing something, some documentation where you were staying. And the most important thing is financial support. How you were supporting yourself financially when you were there for 10 months or 8 months or 6 months. So if you took money with you from India, then you should give a proof that you took money with you. That's limit how much you can take, how much you can bring. I think it's $10,000. You can bring cash with you. So, but if you borrowed from somebody, then you have to show that you borrowed from your brother or your sister or your uncle, and you should give the proof that in the form of a letter from that person that I let this person borrow $10,000, $5,000 to cover his cost during stay in United States. There should be a letter from that person. And then there should be a bank statement where you received that money if you had a bank account. And the same thing, a bank account of that person where money was taken out. So that will make your case strong that you did not work while you were there. That's the big concern on the visa officer mind. If you're staying there for a longer time, maybe you were working, which is sometimes common practice that people do come here on visit visa and they start working under the table. I give you one example. One of the Pakistani, he was just coming for B1 visit for observership. So for second interview on immigration, they asked to give his phone. So he handed over the phone, and they found out that there was a WhatsApp group where people were talking from all over countries that if we get to USA, how we're going to find a job. So there were contact information, there were all the kind of resources provided, how we can find a job. So even though he was not commenting anything, he was not asking anything, but the immigration officer on arrival expressed that you have that access, so I'm going to deny your entry to USA. So he was returned back. So they're getting very strict about this, so we have to be very, very careful. So that's end of the my comments. Then we will take more comments, some more questions, and answer that.
May
Thank
I
you,
add to that,
Dr.
Dr. Shazad?
Yes.
Rightly so, you were mentioning how they have access to phones, and this is the norm now, that
Yes.
they are just accessing phones, social media as well,
Yes.
and they also have a right to get into your Gmail or your email accounts. So at this point, anybody communicating should just be communicating if they're talking about, how am I going to get a job, go to a hospital, blah, blah, blah. You really have to just have phone calls. You cannot have any written documentation if it's social media, your emails, including. So this is a standard practice nowadays. So they really have to be wary of that.
Yeah, different times. I mean, yeah, we got to be really careful, as you said. Yeah, it's it's not like what it used to be before, for sure. Yeah, thank
Dr.
you.
Katula, if I
Yeah.
can add, sorry, in the social media part, it's very important to keep your professional social media. So if you come to the US for an observership and take picture of that observership, keep that. But they are going to look to see if when you came to an observership, you did an observership. So it's not that you came for other reasons. So it's so important now in that social media part to take picture. If you were in an observership, take pictures when rotating with so they can confirm that you were doing that.
So while you have the mic, Dr. Correa, many of these cases suggest a long observership histories, repeated B1, B2 visits, and inconsistencies between prior DS-160 applications and current interviews are triggering additional scrutiny. So from ECFMG's perspective, what are the key patterns applicants should understand before attending interviews?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for the invitation, and one of the things is that the ECFMG is working very hand to hand with the Department of State, and specifically the Department of State in relationship with the embassy in India and Pakistan. So there is a lot of conversations every day. More information. I will put the email of if you have any issues with the process of Schengen visa. The Vice President for External Affairs, Tracy Wallowicz. She is a very she answered all the questions. She is very willing to have some conversation with specific cases. But what I want to tell you is like definitely what it was common here. We have seen that all the issues of observership and the time that Dr. Shad mentioned has play a role more and more in the latest year, and probably more this year than before. So definitely when the officer is examining the applicant, if you can demonstrate any strong ties to your country, any as Rani mentioned, any stable employment or letter of intent for an employment, or any academic future appointments that they will give you if you finish your training in the US, or any family obligations or any credit, that will help a lot during the application process. So definitely the social media, I wanted to talk about this because social media accounts, they can review it, prove if you were in an observership, if you were doing something medically, prove it in the social media. Try to omit all of the other non-professional in your social media, so they don't take that into against you. And also, if you can avoid any travel to the US that has not been regulated by, for example, for observership, or for doing the step 3, or for something related to your application process or research activities, try to minimize it so this doesn't count in the 2 years. Always be very true in your application. For example, if you have done observership and you have the letter of invitation, bring the letters with you. That's extremely important. As Dr. Shahzad mentioned, the DS 2019 right now is being processed electronically. The process started like 2 months or 1.5 months ago, so it will take a little bit of time to catch up. The idea, as per the Department of State, is that it will catch up prior to the start of the academic year in July. But depending on some countries, it takes a little bit longer. But that has shortened the time and all of the signatures and all the process that was behind the scenes, that now has shortened all of that. Try to decrease the inconsistencies between your DS-160 and your prior travel histories and what you were doing. I think that those are the key parts. We can talk about specific situations, but the most important is that in your application, try as much as you can to be very consistent with everything. And if you have, for example, a DS 2019 and there is some issues with that, that's the time immediately to contact the ECFMG to let them know, so they can see if they can help you. Sometimes the problem with ECFMG is a non-for-profit organization that is not the Department of State, but they have good relationship with it up to now, good relationship with the Department of State, and can help sometimes.
Thank you, Dr. Correa. A question to Dr. Bobby Mukamala, who's the AMA president. Bobby, many IMG physicians feel this issue has actually moved beyond visa matter and is now becoming a physician workforce issue and patient access issue affecting residency programs across the country. So how can the AMA best advocate for these physicians while balancing ongoing talks with ECFMG and federal agencies?
Thanks, Dr. Gazula, for having me on this call. This is something that has been obviously personally important to me. I'm nearing the last 15 days of my presidency of the American Medical Association. And as you are aware, and probably most people on this call are aware, there's never been Southeast Asian descent physician. So being of Indian descent, my parents, IMGs themselves, was something that we celebrated at the AMA in the inauguration, obviously with simple things, but symbolic things. Me wearing a Nehru suit to my inauguration, Indian cuisine at the table, everybody wearing amazing colors. It was something that the AMA really became even more connected with. As you can imagine, this has always been an issue. We have an IMG section. My own father, past president of API, was very involved in starting that, and this was almost 30 years ago. And so the AMA has been involved, but now is even more involved because they're not just seeing these statistics and getting headlines from newspapers on this issue. They're getting it from their own IMG section, and they're getting it from communication. As you can also remember, the relationship between API and the AMA has been challenged in the past several decades, but now I think it's closer than ever. I don't think I've ever seen three senior physicians from the board of the American Medical Association at an API meeting. And so we were there with the chair of our board, our president. So it's a growing relationship. And because of that, the AMA has even more dedication to solving these problems that international medical graduates face. And so we've been working with ECFMG because I think we have very distinct roles in this. So the AMA, much more capable than any organization to get headlines, right? To make this known to the public, which is important for us to do all of the work that we just heard about as individuals, while necessary, doesn't really add momentum to the work that we're doing with our attorneys, going to places abroad to deal with this with an individual or a department versus dealing with this in Washington, D.C. and with the media. And so again, from the beginning of the presidency, the role of IMGs in America in every single one of my speeches from the 1960s and 70s, that generation that we all know has practiced in rural areas. My parents came to Flint, Michigan, where I am right now, and Flint would not be the same without international medical graduates. In fact, I use that in my speeches all the time, talking to lawmakers as well about the importance of IMGs in places like Flint, even today. 30 residencies being filled with IMGs is not a story from the 1960s and 70s. This is year 2026. And so at the beginning of my presidency was exactly when H-1B visas, as you're all aware, while it's not the topic for today, all of a sudden came with a $100,000 bill. And that was something that, from MSNBC to so many media outlets that were interested in telling the story. I still do interviews about that today. And we've been working hard on that issue, the AMA, trying to get an exemption for physicians, just to say, hey, this is not something that it's, foreign people trying to take jobs away from the US. This is international medical graduates serving the United States in places where, if it weren't for IMGs, these positions wouldn't get filled. And so that's something that we've been trying hard to get that, and we've had conversations with the administration. They said they're open to this, and this has been sort of their standard line associated with this exemption for physicians for the past 10, 11 months, and we're still working on it. But now, of course, J1 visas have been a topic of our work as well. As you all know, the Conrad 30 waiver has been a program that we've always supported. Again, it's in every single one of the speeches I give across the country as far as a program that is critical to help the healthcare needs, particularly of rural and underserved areas. And we're working on getting that extended. But also there's legislation to increase this to 100 waivers. I think it's HR 1201, the Doctors in Our Borders, to extend the ability of that program to help us. And the current administration has been told that the IMGs, again, are taking positions away from U.S. graduates. This is the challenge that we face internally. As you can imagine, the opinions that are heard differ a lot from reality. And there's an undercurrent of U.S. graduates that may be disappointed about not matching, and that blame goes to international medical graduates taking these positions. And there's always going to be one story or two stories that says, they ranked somebody that's an IMG maybe higher than a U.S. graduate that might have ranked that program higher also. But the story of individuals does not talk about the credibility of an entire group of physicians to say that they can't be relied upon, they're taking positions away. And so this is something that that we are dealing with. Again, the critical way to do this, besides the work on policy, which we're also doing with the ECFMG, are the stories that we tell. And so that's why every time I'm in Washington, D.C., everybody knows that I'm the son of IMGs, and that happens to be president of the American Medical Association. It's in every headline. But now to tell the story of 200 plus Indians, particularly from India, needing to return to either start their residencies or continue their residencies are being challenged. These are the stories that we share. And, this is something that uh, is being challenged even more than usual for IMGs. And our own residencies here in Flint, where my mom and dad did their residency at Hurley Hospital, is also challenged. And this is something that I always connect, whether it's the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, I connect them with people at our own hospital that are struggling. And so I asked them specifically, how many people are you struggling? And they said it's the graduates from Indian programs that are coming here to either start or complete their residency. There's one that's there on the list right now that can't fill that position. And so this is something that I think, while the officers that are in India and Pakistan that are in other places, they're the ones that are directly involved. But there is an influence of those in the US, obviously, that make those policies, whether that's Marco Rubio, who himself is of Cuban descent. And that's an interesting story there because just last week I was in Miami for a group of more than 500 international medical graduates, many of whom were coming to Florida from Cuba. Again, Marco Rubio's descent is from Cuba, and they themselves are telling stories about how they're here to take the USMLE. They're here for several years in that process, and they are also very concerned, not just concerned about this, but just the culture in our country. And this is something I talk about a lot in the stories that I tell about those people that are here studying for this process. And I asked them to come and visit us in Chicago at the AMA, to come to Flint, Michigan, to share, just the experience because they become friends. And the reason they won't come yet is because of their concern about ICE, right? The security in this country and the challenges that they perceive to be here totally legitimately, but scared to get on an airplane because of the consequences of this kind of culture that we have now about those of international descent is a concern. And so the AMA's observation is that, again, seems to be limited to India. It's an issue that's affecting a relatively small percentage of physicians, but because a large number of those visa applications are from India, that impact appears quite large. And that's something that, it shouldn't be somebody that says, oh, it's just one country, everybody else is fine. Well, this country contributes to, almost 25% of the IMGs in the US, is my understanding. And so you guys know all the details. We've already heard a lot of the details about the previous B1 for the observerships. The other thing I'll say, sorry to keep going on, but it's something that I'm obviously passionate about. I got about 50 emails a day, and many of those people are probably on this call for the past week about this issue, which is fine. We get that a lot about every issue. There's people that are passionate about everything from Medicare cuts to Medicaid to challenges facing IMGs. And the clarity that we get from those stories about this is not one that I just got last night was about observership, but also clerkships that somebody's on as part of the B1 thing, which is something that we weren't even aware of, or I wasn't aware of. And so it's something that that having those stories, having that information helps us to advocate. And it's basically, the residents and observerships doing what they're supposed to do using the B1 are now suffering with these new interpretations of that intent. And so the level of scrutiny is new from what we can tell. This isn't something that we were challenged with before, and it's an intense scrutiny of IMGs more than other immigrants. So because of these applications have had more than one B1, they're being flagged because of the suspicion that they may not actually intend to return to their home country. Obviously, we already heard the details about that. And so in summary, what I would say is ECFMG, we've been in communication with them, and obviously we already heard that update from an amazing colleague of mine who's been very involved at the AMA from the very beginning in his younger years that's already spoken, and that's Ricardo. But the strategy after conversations between the AMA and the ECFMG is that they're meeting with the officials that they regularly do, and they hope to have this resolved within the next week, is what they communicated to us. And part of that communication is that to have multiple voices advocating for this from different perspectives is not what they suggested, right? So that they say that the AMA supports and we're on call but ECFMG specifically has said, let us engage in this over the next week, and then we'll let you know how else you can help. And so we are on the standby circle, ready to do whatever we can in addition to public awareness of this in my content and media that we put out. Sorry to go on so long, but you can sense the agitation/passion that I have on this issue. Thanks.
We definitely have a passion for this issue. I know that, Bobby, because of your parents being immigrants, and I spoke to you many times. And thank you so much for your advocacy and efforts, to do good for IMGs. So thank you. So now, Dr. Amit Chakravarty, the president of API, who actually has put together the whole thing. Interestingly, he cannot join because we are at the
No,
capacity.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm
He's
Oh, you are
here.
here.
I'm,
Okay, awesome,
I'm
awesome.
here.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks
So,
for joining. Go ahead. So I know you've been in Europe, and thank you for joining from there. You had some difficulty in the beginning, but you made it. So I'm so glad, and thank you for putting this together. The credit goes to you. And since this issue is disproportionately affecting Indian IMG physicians, how is API has taken a leadership role in organizing advocacy, education, and support around the crisis? And what action is API currently undertaking with consulates, lawmakers, the residency programs, and partner organizations to help the affected physicians and bring more consistency and transparency to the visa process?
well, thank you. Thank you, Satish. The reason I could not join, which is a very, very nice reason to have, was we had reached capacity. And literally, and I really apologize for whoever was dropped out of. So Vijaya had to randomly remove one person for me to be able to join. So I apologize for person who did not join, but this will be recorded and shown to everybody. And thank you all for coming in at such a short notice. I really appreciate all the panel. You guys have been leaders in this and getting everybody together. And I've been listening to the conversation because Vijaya had put it on speaker, so I was like listening to the whole thing what you guys were saying. And thank you for your information. From API's standpoint, as you know, yes, it's mostly our Indian physicians have been affected. You guys might remember when I took over in May of last year. Most of you may have been in this group before. So we had another different issue. We had the issue of J1 visa blockade, and AMA with Bobby there actually had lifted the AMA had lifted the J1 blockade, but problem was that people from India were not getting interview slots. This was 1 year ago, and what was very concerning that people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and even China were getting it, and we were very concerned. That the first time I reached out to Dr. Fateh Shahzad, and he was very helpful and told me what things are happening. But finally, we found out through our contacts. We had a couple of very good contacts through one name I should mention is Dr. Bharat Parai has got a lot of contacts in the embassy there. So we found a senior member in the American embassy, and we found out that they were just finishing off the smaller quotas, and they were waiting for the July 4th weekend to finish to start on India. So that's what Dr. Shahzad also confirmed that. So fortunately, through our efforts with them, with state government, all these 165 people got a visa interview. So we were very, very lucky and very happy. However, and again, over the year, I've been very, very lucky. I mean, out of all the presidents, and the first time in the history of AMA, I have Bobby at the leadership of the largest medical organization of the United States, and us being the second largest medical organization in the United States. So we worked together. We've talked many times about this. We have talked about H-1B issues, but this one is a completely different thing altogether. As you know, this one is that they're denying visas. Some people say disproportionately. So for Indians, they feel, I don't know how far that is true, but. So what we did was, again, this is not something where we can reach to the American consulate or the state. We can go through the State Department, but I'll tell you what we have done till now about that. So, what we found out, as you may have known from all the emails or the text messages I forwarded in the group, that people who actually apply for B1 visa, they overstay their thing because the stamp is there for 6 months, and they don't feel that they feel that they can stay on for that time. And when I asked Dr. Rani, not Dr. Monday, Dr. Monde's daughter, Rani, and she told me that, hey, that's not kosher. You have to let the State Department know. So these are the things which people are facing, and the reason they are putting a smaller time when they're applying for B1 visa, I was told, is that they feel that, okay, fine, if I apply for 4 months to 4 weeks to 8 weeks, the chances of me getting it is going to be better. So that's why this thing is together. Everybody advised everyone what to write, and there's a very, very active person in the J1 visa group, and I'll just tell you his name in just a second. And he has been very, very active in putting all the things together. His name is Sagar Patel. He puts all the interviews together. Those are his things which I forwarded to you. So here, the thing which we want to do is, again, work with AMA and ECFMG to see what we can do collectively. Obviously, AMA is a very, very strong force there, and they are behind you. As long as Bobby is there, I can assure you that they are behind you. The other thing which we are doing is trying to reach out to the American Embassy. Dr. Bara again is helping me try to reach through the Indian Embassy and see whether we can get this forward. But right now, I believe the most important thing we can do is putting this kind of seminar together for you guys to know what they are looking for and what to do next. So that's what we have done till now, Satish.
Well, thank you, Amit. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very helpful for IMGs who are really trying to get their visas straightened out. So, another question to Rani, the immigration attorney. So, Rani, what legal or strategic advice would you give applicants who are preparing for interviews again after denial or a prolonged administrative processing? Specifically, how can they address concerns about immigrant intent, the observership duration, and ties to their home country without appearing defensive or scripted?
Yeah, so those are good questions. And in terms of the first, let's talk about the immigration intent. The issue is that you do really need to provide, to overcome the immigration intent, as I mentioned initially, the type of documentation that you need to show is that you have strong ties to the home country. So I'd mentioned that you would need to show financial ties, which include strong bank accounts, like Dr. Shahzad had mentioned. You should also show that you have potentially opportunities to be employed, that you will return to your home country. That is because you have this either intent with employment. Now, additionally, in addition to that, you if you have practices of family and whatnot, that's always also very helpful. In terms of the second part of the question was about the observerships and the B1, B2s, right? Can you repeat that part again, if you don't mind?
Sure. It's about the B1, B2 issue. I mean, how they can actually, explain all these things without appearing defensive or scripted. So when they're going for the prolonged administrative processing, when they're going through that, so how can they really explain this without being defensive, this overstayed on B1, B2s?
You'd have to say something like, in preparation, you'd have to know which hospitals, this is in preparation of okay. So they would have to say that they are observerships in case that they were long, that that they wanted to observe multiple, they have to have good answers, multiple subspecialties, and that they were across different hospital systems because they had to learn these different subspecialties. If they are perceived as long, they have to have good answer, and they have to walk through, just like Dr. Shahzad said, which hospitals, what are the specifics, which departments, which physicians, what specific procedures or cases maybe that were involved in. The doctor from the ECFMG also mentioned, take pictures also of those particular times you spent there. And how do the specific observations connect to your declared specialty? So you have to be able to demonstrate that this was genuine and that you did not even, it's an observership is an observership. You did not engage really in patient contact. You were just observing the procedures and the processes of the medical system. So those things that would address the observership issues. In terms of if they were denied into the future, if the 214B, ultimately is a pure denial, where they are now stuck and they wonder, what are they going to do? They have to move forward with their lives. You can't just apply right away. You have to wait at least 6 months to a year. Unfortunately, nothing's going to change. And unless you provide new documentation about how you can overcome these different issues. So those are things that you have to overcome in that way, that it'll take time to reapply, but you have to have the new documentation to overcome why you were denied to begin with. So do you have additional specific questions at this time?
So let me interject one second here. There's another gentleman, and great, thank you, Rani, a great answer. There's one more person I would like to speak up on this. He's a great friend of RP and great friend of mine for a long time, and he has been doing this also. His name is Sante Chari, the CEO of U.S. Physician Resources, and he has been doing this. And his son is also another immigration lawyer we just found out. So he has been doing this for some time. Let's, if it's okay, Satish, could we have him? Vijaya, could we unmute him and have him speak? We can learn. He's been doing this for a long time. We can learn a little bit from him. So, Vijaya, could you unmute Doctor? Is that okay, Satish, if I have him speak
for 2 minutes, because we have several questions, and then
Sante, just a couple of minutes, okay? While you're reading, while you're preparing the first question. And Vijaya, if she's not, till she unmutes Sante, you go ahead and ask the questions.
So, I would like to add on Rani's comments a few things with my recent experience. Is it okay if I?
Sure, go ahead, Dr. Shahzad.
She mentioned about, again, this is just from pure recent experience, that you can't apply for 6 months to a year, which is kind of almost impossible. They're going to lose their spot. So with Pakistani experience, like there were 2 J1 refused. They applied within a week and they did get visa. Actually, they did get interview and their visa was accepted. So I will encourage those whose visa were denied, they should reapply as soon as possible. To prepare your list of your observership, like in a chronological order. I was there from this state to this state, who was my preceptor, and how much time I spent there. Then go to the next one, then go to the next one. If you did step 3, take your results of step 3, your permit and everything, your email communication with your preceptor. And as I said again, financial is very important, that you prove that how did you support it yourself. That's important. Again, this every visa, J1 visa or even B1 visa these days is going automatic administrative processing for social media vetting. So what I tell Pakistani residents and observers, that make a list of your URLs of all your social media account, type on a piece of paper and give it to visa officer, and they actually like it. Even the visa officer like it, that they're making their life easy so they can access their social media through URL. Of course, you're mentioning that in your DS-160, but this small tip does help. And about the ties, like, first thing you have to understand, all of J1, that you are actually signing a paper through your statement of need as well as your Department of State document 2019 tells that you have 2-year home residency rule. Tell the officer, I am a J1 applicant. 2-year home residency rules apply to me. So I'm legally bound to come back to US, to my home country. So that's your one defense. Second, sometimes they ask, do you want to work in US later on? So the political correct answer is that because 2-year home residency applies to me, so my first legal requirement is I should come back. But if I get opportunity through waiver program, I would love to serve US healthcare system in underserved area. So that gives the impression that you want to serve US as well as you are aware of that you have to come back. So these are small tricks that you should remember during your visa interview.
Thank you, Dr. Shahzad. The question to Ronnie, and somebody
Yes.
asked, what if they have, yeah, Sanjay Chari, is he ready, Amit?
Hi,
No, he was the person. He was the person who just now spoke.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, I see him now.
No,
So,
it was Fateh Shahzad.
Oh, it was Fateh Sajjad. Oh, sorry. Sante, are you ready?
yes, hi, yes.
I would
Yes, go
like
ahead.
to say something, if I may. Santi Chari was one of my first. I was the attorney for his company, and hi, Santi. It was so nice to see you.
Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie. Nice
What was
to
the
see you.
company again? J1, was it?
US Physician Resources.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Satish. Actually, we started working with J1 and H1 doctors in 1990. Maybe it's clear, even late 80s, Since then, we have worked hundreds of doctors and placement. And if anybody is looking for any help, like if they lost their visa or if they need a new employer, I think we should be able to, call our contacts and get them placed overnight. And I think that API has done a great job. I have attended many legislative sessions in Washington, D.C. And I hope that the new administration will understand that they don't want to mix doctors with the technology people or the non-essential workers. I would think that we may have to really go and represent doctors to be treated along with probably no labor certification like nurses and physical therapists. I
Yeah,
would
thank you,
think.
Chari. I would like you to just give us a couple of tips. There are students here who are, so many people. They only need some tips. Anything they need to do for the interviews. Maybe a couple of sentences.
Yeah, I would just say, as it is, the interview stage would be as long as they don't give an impression they intend to, come back and settle down here, and their intent is to come back and provide service to the care to the home country, to the people. There is a legal thing. You can change your mind when you come to the US. That's all I can say. And I'm sure that they will actually get their visa approved. Once they show that they are carrying more than just coming and settling down in the United States.
thank you. Thank you, Shahzad, for
Thank you very much.
clarification.
Appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead, Satish, with the questions.
Yeah. And Ronnie, there's a question about H1 visa. If a spouse has H1 visa, and how can a candidate explain their intent to, go back to their respective country?
Okay, so this is for who? A J1 visa holder who has a
J1
spouse on
applying for
H1?
J1, and a spouse has H1 already in the US,
Right.
and as the spouse is coming as a physician to work in the US on J1 visa, they go for interview, and how can you really explain that they're going to go back because their spouse
That's a tough one because the H-1B, has dual intent, and dual intent allows the H-1B individual to obtain a green card in the United States. So, which is contrary to the intent of a J-1, which is temporary in nature, and the J-1 visa holder. That's a tough one. They'll just have to focus on themselves and just talk about, look, I have to come back. My obligation is to learn these skills so that I can bring it back to my home country. And there has to be a narrative about that they have to develop and really believe in, and show those letters that I have those skills and I'm going to take it back to my home country. I'm going to work at this hospital. I have this other practice. I have my financial, I have this other practice that I'm going to go to, and this is what I intend to do. So the narrative has to be really strong in regards to that maybe we have different career paths, even if I'm married.
Yeah.
Would like to add, Satish?
Yeah, please go ahead, Dr. Shalin.
See, Rani really explained very well. We all need to understand that the J1 is J1. Doesn't matter if spouse is H1, even spouse can be a citizen. So J1 waiver program or returning to your home country will be required. So the applicant need to say that I'm going J1, 2-year home residency applies to me. Yes, my spouse is H1, but I still have to return back to my country or apply for waiver. So that's does not matter if your spouse is even citizen. Even if you get citizenship through your wife or husband, you still have to do waiver. 2-year home residency still applies to you.
And
Thank
as a
you.
matter of fact, the last point is that, as a matter of fact, that even if the spouse, the H-1B holder, has a green card process, which involves the employment, the perm, the I-140, even if they mention the spouse on the I-1, if the H-1B individual mentions the spouse on the I-140 for consular processing, that spouse will not be able to get any step related to the green card initiated because of the 212E, which requires the foreign residence requirement. Again, they would even say that. They would say, I can't get a green card anyways, even if my spouse wants, well, I don't know if you want to mention the word green card, but the point is that is the truth of the matter. You have to get a waiver of the foreign residence requirement if you intend to be in America. But so that's another point that they'll not get it. They'll have to have a waiver or they have to serve their 2 years abroad.
So thank you, Ronnie. I mean, believe it or not, we are 1 hour into the meeting. I know some of you have other responsibilities, and we have a lot of questions, actually. We have probably like 60, 70 questions, but I think these can be answered, on the website of API. We can take those questions and, answer as many as we can. And I think we can take a couple of questions, but I think Bobby has to leave. But one question, Bobby, to you. And everybody says, I know what you're doing to IMG physicians personally, and you have explained very eloquently, what you've been doing for IMGs. But in the general membership, there is always this, notion that, AMA is not doing enough for IMGs. But how can we really articulate that to general membership?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would say is I see the IMG section within the AMA have so much passion and willingness to face these challenges. And not just, I mean, you know how it is. Sometimes our challenges, there's enormous energy on this call, but what is our willingness and ability to talk to our lawmakers about this? And that sort of hesitation does not exist within the IMG section of the American Medical Association. Every year that we meet, every meeting that we have, there's always amazing passion about the resolutions that will help IMGs live out the dream and add to American healthcare system. And so I would say that the skepticism about IMGs within the AMA not having power is a misunderstanding, right? And I think Ricardo can tell you that. I mean, we worked on that same together, and the board liaisons bring whatever comes up at those section meetings to the board as a whole, which is the governing entity of the AMA. But now getting to the root of the question, what more can be done? Again, I think it depends on the role that we have. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a distinct role about the sharing the stories of what IMGs are going through right now and in general with all physicians, right? There's 1 million physicians in this country. Yes, a large percentage of them are IMGs, but everybody needs to be unified in our efforts. What one group of us is facing is what all of us are facing. And so I think that's something that the AMA takes very seriously and shares these stories, right? If I'm on MSNBC, maybe that's not what it's called anymore, but if I'm on there getting invited to talk about H-1B visas, that's prime time, right? The other thing I'll mention, I just had a prep call yesterday because we all know NPR, right? So they have their show called 1A. And what that I'm on that show next week. And now, granted, that's one's about student loans and student debt and how that's all changing now because it's capped at 200,000. But that's exactly where I share the stories about what do we do in those situations that we're challenged. And there was, I mentioned already, physician exemptions from H-1B visas. The one thing that came up I noticed is that under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, reclassifying nurses, physical therapists, speech therapists as something other than professional. That's going to come up in this call. And so it's the one intersection between what we're doing today and what NPR radio is going to talk about, because other people will be on that call also. It'll be somebody from the American Nurses Association and their president talking about it. So I guess in answer to your question, Dr. Kazula, what I would say is that the AMA is doing a lot, but these are massive headwinds, right? AMA is the largest physician organization, but just like when we deal with pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies in massive systems, in the Christian terminology, it's David versus Goliath, right? And that's what the AMA is, despite being the largest one, despite having all the support of API and everybody else, it's still an uphill battle. But we will continue to fight it on this issue, on reimbursement issues. It's a voice that you will never hear silenced.
Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate your time today. So another question to either Ronnie or Dr. Shehzad. How to explain if they took B1, B2 for the purpose of tourism, but they ended up doing this observership? How can they really explain that?
I will let
That
Rani speak first and then I will.
the B2 is a temporary visa for the purposes of pleasure. So, and that is the fact. The at least for at least from my legal perspective, for the first 90 days, there's a presumption of that's what it has to be. If and after the 90 days, there's a change. If they're granted a stay in the United States for more than 90 days, then one can perhaps pivot to say that, oh, I traveled and then I saw this amazing opportunity. And I would say that they have to engage in anything after a 90-day period. And the reason why is there's a presumption of that you have to have been a visitor of pleasure for the first 90 days. Now, I will ask Dr. Shehzad, what are when people are applying for the B visas and for the when they come to the United States, what are we seeing them? What are you hearing that they do? Are they saying they're on a B, and then they switch to the observership, or they do that while they're there? I mean, they immediately look for the observership. How are you seeing things happen?
Yeah, most of physicians, they applying from any country, they combine with B1, B2, and they are granted B1, B2. Some they're granted only B1, but purely people who come for a visit to enjoy, to play, they get B2. But this gentleman has done a guess that he was on B2. He tried to do observership. So if, as Rani said, if you stayed 3 months and longer than 3 months and your observership time was after 3 months, then you can go with that I was traveling for 3 months, then I did observership. If you did not do observership if you did observership in the first 3 months or first month, then simply just show your ignorance that I'm sorry, doctor, officer, I was not aware of. That's the only option you have. There's no other option.
Because if you're going for an observership, you would have to request declare it for a B1. So the
Yes.
B1 is the more specific, business process. So when you have been visa stamped and you get this B1, B2 visa stamp in your passport for 10 years, that allows you to choose when you come into the country, you declare the basis of you being here. And at that point, you have to say, I'm here for this observership that I actually got this. Here's my letter. So then they will issue you, they'll stamp you and put in your arrival record the B1 on record.
Yeah.
And then you're good. So if you make a, so this is a very important distinction that you have to clear up right now. And anyone who's listening needs to know this, that we need to just declare why you're here. Do not say, if you're scared that they're going to kick you out of the country, they won't let you in the country. Do not say, I'm here, I'm visiting my so-and-so, and then you jump into an observership. That's perhaps what they're looking for nowadays. Back there, when you return, and then you're trying to get back here for your J1. So it's a very important distinction. And that's why I was wanting to just check and see where are we getting these denials, what they're saying when they come into the country.
Thank you, Ronnie. There's another question. The number of J1 visa slots in India are very limited since past month. Does RP, ECFMG, AMA can do anything regarding this?
I don't know. Is Bobby still there, or he left? I think
Bobby,
Bobby left.
I
Bobby had to
think,
go. So
Can I
oh
jump
yeah.
in for a quick second? This is Deepu is here. I just
Hey, Deepu, welcome.
Hey,
yeah,
yeah,
hey, Deepu, welcome. Thank you that you could get it. Deepu was having the same problems. I mean,
yes.
we just wanted to underscore this for all of you who are here. All of us are very busy practicing uh, physicians or attorneys. We've taken this time off for trying to educate you. And I just want to appreciate Deepu was called for emergency, and he's still calling for the OR, just got in, and he was having trouble getting in because of the same issue we had, restart capacity. Go ahead. Deepu is the pediatric surgeon in St. Louis area, and he was a co-moderator with Satish Katula, but
Yeah.
because of this, Satish had to handle the whole thing, and he did a great. So, by the way, Deepu, Satish did a great job. So go ahead, Deepu, just say a
Thank
few words.
thank you. Appreciate it. So let me answer the question directly. This has happened last time too. Obviously, through AMA, we have, and through ECFMG and AMA, they have contacted and said that, hey, we have difficulty getting visa slots, and they usually try to accommodate. There are some ways you can apply for emergency visas, and sometimes visa slots which can get denied. The other thing, what you all could do is you could reach out to your hospital, and the hospital can reach out to your local congressman or the senator, and they can write, or they can actually reach out to the consulate saying that, hey, this hospital is having difficulty getting these residents, which is affecting my constituents. And many of the hospitals does that. And so when they reach out, they usually, I have to stress usually, will indulge and give some visa slots, open up some visa slots. That's how, or even the other thing which I always tell the candidates is that anticipate delays. So you can actually tell the programs that you're going to get delayed, so you can push the start date a little later, and that is something which we have always encouraged people when you anticipate delays, and so you get about 1 or 2 months to even push your start date, and people will usually indulge on that we have done it last year too. So these are things to accommodate you in this process.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Satish, if I may add a little bit, that's
Deepu.
the
Go ahead.
visa interpretation sorts the same lines as we did that. We don't know whether there's a fixed number. We don't know that, but like Deepu said, we exactly did that through API. for the visa slots, which was stopped for only people. It was kind of assumed that hey, visa slots for India was not opening up till Dr. Shahzad and the embassy told us that was not the case. So the reason only could be that we have got more people applying for visa from J1 from India than anybody else. So the percentage, and it's not fair, I understand, but the percentage of visa slots or visas are apparently the same for Nepal, Pakistan, and India, and that's something which Bobby and we have discussed this before, and that is something which we should kind of present is that hey, you cannot give the same number of visa interview slots to Nepal and India together. So that is what's happening right now. However, having said that, because of what's happening, and we actually addressed this issue on the H1B thing also, that tell your program directors, because remember, program directors in smaller counties, smaller hospital really love you guys. You guys, your Indian residents. I've been in smaller hospitals. I've talked to the residents. We have had some hospitals who have 75% IMGs, and they love the work ethics and the fact that you want to do. And also, they get the cream of the crop. If they get some American graduate for family practice, they will get a bottom of the barrel. But from India, they'll get the cream of the crop. They always want you. So please, go write to your program director, ask them, can you guys wait for a month? This is what's going on. Can you call your congressman? They have got a lot of clout with the congressman because they're fighting for Medicare reimbursement, etc., etc. So they've got a better political clout than API has. I'm telling you, that is your best bet. Go ahead.
Satish, I would like to add a few things.
Sure,
Go ahead.
please.
Sure. For J1 interview, luckily India has more consulates and more slots to get into for J1. So what I usually recommend that now we have a group where almost everybody is on WhatsApp group. So we will ask the admin to open up for the everybody to participate in conversation and send messages. So you find out first where their slots are available. It can be in Hyderabad, it can be in Mumbai, it can be different. So once you submit a request, submit DS 160, you can't change it, you can't edit it. So first find out where slots are available sooner. So you submit your application in that, even if you have to travel. Number two, if you can't find, just get whatever date is available. And then you all are within the 45 days of your start date because it's if it is almost end of the May, you have to be there July 1st. So you can request for emergency. And if your emergency is denied, you can request again. Even if your previous visa was on emergency and your J1 was denied, you can request second time. So you get two options. If you attend your emergency visit previously within a year, you get a second chance. But if you don't attend your visa visit, which you did get on emergency, then you don't get a chance for 365 days. So you have a chance to apply for one time, even second time, if you get denied or if your visa get denied. So you can request twice your emergency, and you most likely will get decision within 24 to 48 hours.
Thank you, Dr. Shahzad. Dr. Korea, any take on this increasing J1 visa slots from ECFMG?
Yes, so I think that it was mentioned. One of the things that the ECFMG is trying is constant communication with the Department of State so they can communicate with the consulates and the embassies in India and Pakistan. I will after this I will send all of these questions to Tracy so she can be aware of what is happening. But I think that what is happening right now, what the AMA is doing, what the ECFMG they are doing, what DPU recommends, like talk to the program where you are, and then talking to the program directors that they have a lot of power. That's the best thing that we can do at this moment. But as I mentioned, I think that ECFMG is in constant communication with specifically with the embassy in India.
Yeah. And some of the applicants have reached out to me they're scared to notify their program director. They're worried about they will kick them out of the program. I think you should reach out to your program director, let them know they're not going to remove you just because your visa is not approved. You still have enough time. So don't be scared. Just reach out to your programs.
I want to emphasize this, what Dr. Fateh said. Many people have asked me, like, hey, no, I'm scared they're going to give this part. No, they have to go through a hard time to find another person. So tell them, be forthfront with them that my visa is getting denied. Please do what we can do. All those things they will accommodate. And ECFMG will also accommodate to move your start date as well on those scenarios. So it's very rare for somebody to be kicked out for that purpose.
Thanks, Deepu. We are at 11:18 a.m. So, Amit, I mean, there are a lot of questions, overwhelming number of questions, and a lot of them are pretty similar questions, and some of them are very individualized. I think we answered most of the burning questions, which are useful for everybody. So we apologize for not answering each and every question. But again, this
And actually, Dr. Cesar has taken some of the questions and answered directly on the chat box.
yes, he did
And
actually.
I would just request, first thing is that a lot of you have written such long, I know you're anxious, you're frustrated, I mean, I know where you're coming from, but if you write a whole page as a question, very difficult to address those. If it is a one-line question, it's much easier to address those.
Yeah.
Having said that, we might be able to repeat this perhaps in a couple of weeks and get a if you guys want to, and I'll look for the WhatsApp forum and get a feel if you guys want to get a repeat of this thing in a week or two. But having said that, I'll request the panelists to please look at. We're not going to close this group right now. Panelists, if you can look at the questions, and if any of you can answer them directly on the chat box, that will help the people who have asked those questions and whose questions have not been answered. Having said that, we will thank you very much for Satish picking up the baton and kind of running with it. Great job. And Deepu, we know that we surgeons know things happen. So we appreciate you trying to come back. And Rick and Ronnie, thank you so much. You stepped in at the last moment and did a great job. And Fateh, what can I say? We've been working together for 1 year, helping the J1. You're very passionate. You have a lot of knowledge, and we learned a lot from you. And please answer some of the questions which are in the chat box. And guys, if you don't have any other questions, we try not to unmute people. A few people had raised their hands. We tried not to unmute you because of the fact that if I do for one, it's not fair that you don't do for another. Next time, if you do it, we will have a different forum. We will try to get more participants who could join, because I bet there are at least another 100 or 200 who couldn't join. I can guarantee you that, because I had trouble joining and Deepu had trouble joining. And so next time we'll double our capacity. Next time we will try to have a speaker panel separate so that we don't have to do this. We'll do some changes to. That's a good problem to have, like I said. And thank you very much. We will right now. Vijaya, please don't shut this thing off, so that if we can answer people in the chat box, so that we don't have to answer on the phone on the thing. Is that okay with everyone?
Sure, it's okay. Satish, if you have time, or if anybody wants to leave, I can give you another hour. So if you want to ask question, I'm available if you have time.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, Satish. I'll tell you
No,
what. How about
I'm good. I can stay.
Okay, let's keep taking questions.
Then just carry on. Then carry on, Satish.
I think what we can do is
now Deepu has come in, so he can share the fact that the questions in the chat box, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so Fateh, Dr. Sadat, thank you for doing that. I just didn't want to impose on you because we had told you all that, hey, it'll be only for an hour. And we know that, and Rani, I know you guys charge by the hour, and
No,
you know.
not for you, not for you all.
Okay,
So
okay,
Thank you.
no,
now,
I'm here as well. I'm here as well.
okay, so so what I want to do is that Deepu, you
Mhm.
and Satish will not talk anymore. Just answer questions. And to the people who are putting on the chat box, please put one sentence questions. Please don't write a whole page. Okay. So I'll kind of mute myself. Satish and Deepu, carry on, and panelists, please answer questions.
Thank you, Amit. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, the thing is that Amit and Deepu are the ones who have done all the work, and I get to really speak a lot today and ask questions. But anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity. So I think we can just answer here. So even if you asked a question, before, if you can summarize that into 2 lines and put it here, so the respective panelists can answer that. Even if you asked previously, just put the questions because it's very hard to go back because there are so many out there. So I think we have to retype the question in 1 or 2 lines so that our panelists can answer.
So I'm gonna jump in and start answering. There was a question regarding involving prior J1 visa refusals. How effective is reaching out to the U.S. senator? Or it is always effective to through your hospital to reach out to the senators. Because they are the people who are responsible to the people who are in the United States, and they will help you out. With a letter from the senator or the congressman, these hospitals have done this before. They know what to do. They will help you out. So please reach out and let them know you have delays, you have a J1 waiver, J1 denial. All those things will help for sure. If prior B1 observership was refused, best way to explain in J1 visa interview, especially when the person has not traveled to the United States. Well, I mean, myself had my first visa ever for United States denied. So the biggest concept everybody has to understand in this whole process is that um, the the what they are looking for within the first 2 to 5 seconds, they should feel that you are going to come back to India. If there's any red flags, you can anticipate. You should be able to address that within the first few minutes. Excessive travel in the United States, spending a lot of time in the United States, family, all these things are red flags, and not having enough ties to you to come back to India, like not having a job there. You quit the job, and I'm out of job, and I'm studying, or I'm studying for step 3. These things are like, okay, you have enough money, you're not going to come back to India. So you have to kind of focus, redirect every question to say, hey, I am going to I have got a lot of plans to come back to India. This hospital has invested on me a lot. I really want to come back and do the work back in India. All I want is to gain more knowledge from the United States and come back. That should be your concept. And the second point, you have to keep doing that. Yeah, so then I've heard from many people that there are people sitting there and trying to look for slots, opening slots, and all. That is a good way, but they will only give you slots as much as you can, and that slot is controlled by them. So you have to keep looking for slots, and you can apply for this whenever the slots open up. We are trying our best to try to improve the slot numbers, but it's not just J1 people. There are a lot of other people also applying. So it's a big line. B1 heard a lot of cases prior. So I mean, be honest about a rejection if you had prior. So if there was a B1 rejection prior, you should be able to tell them why I got rejected at that time, or this is why I think I got rejected. But yes, I had a rejection. Don't cover it up. Even if you are coming back for a J1 repeat J1, you should from the get go say that how I'm going to come back to India. That is what they are looking for. So don't and the addressing is very honestly say that, hey, I didn't, I when I first applied for my first B1, I was applying from Australia or other place. Then I said, oh, I didn't had much relationship in Australia, so I that's why they rejected me at that time. But I have a lot of roots in India right now, so I'm applying from here. That was one of the biggest questions here. Uh, how to address the question about spouse when even my spouse had matched into different programs and different states. You should come up and say that, hey, me and my spouse is planning to come back to India and have a and join this particular hospital, and we just want to get trained there to be better serving Indian population. And don't say, I mean, that's where you should bring everything back to that you're coming back. There was a question to Dr. Fateh. We were not given enough time or asked questions to prove our intent. Many of us were given rejections under 2 minutes.
Yes,
Okay, Dr.
I
Fateh,
did
please address.
respond to that question, but it's very unfortunate. Sometimes people don't get a chance, but it's been rejected. There's no recourse. You can't appeal the decision. So that's the final decision of the visa officer. So only option is you apply for it, get emergency appointment, and go well prepared. Um, I've seen. I don't know. It's just a coincidence. Most of those denial are from Hyderabad consulate. So try to avoid that, go somewhere else.
So, well, I mean, if they get an appointment somewhere else, but the question is that if you have 2 minutes, I have gone through multiple visa interviews, so I know the point is that within the first 2 minutes you should be able to put into the counselor. I'm not going to tell you how you should do it, but to the counselor that I have to come back. I am just trying to learn a little bit more knowledge in the United States, and I have so much things to come back. And don't try to just answer their question. The moment they give you a question, you kind of redirect it back to if they ask you, hey, what's going on? I mean, what's going on with all this observerships and staying there for 6 to 8 months? Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I'm a good candidate for residency, and I got some opportunities there so that I can come back and work in India and be a better provider here. That is how you end the question. You answered the question, but you took that directly to them that it is not that you don't need to worry that I'm going to stay back there. For candidates inactive on social media, is it necessary to update our observership in LinkedIn? Is it necessary to update our observership in LinkedIn? Usually, observerships. So again, this is something which I have noticed multiple times that people who have get an observership back once you are in United States, it's not declared observership. So what you need to do is you should be able to, as the attorney said, you should say that it just came by like that. So I got an opportunity. So I didn't know that I had to report it, but. You don't need to necessarily report in LinkedIn because it is. I don't think it is something you are anyway declaring it. You don't need to have it everywhere.
Can I add something to social media topic? So
Right.
make your social media public as soon as you submit your DS-160. Don't wait till your interview because the background process starts when you submit your DS-160. So make it public and ask somebody to check your social media. It's happened in Pakistan, Islamabad, that they did make it public, but the other people could not see that way. So tell somebody else to look at your social media, whether it's public or especially Facebook. There's some glitch in that. So that's very important that it should be public and it should remain public till you arrive to US, because on arrival, they can check that also when you arrive at immigration. So keep it public. About YouTube, only if you have a YouTube channel of your own, then you should provide that information on DS-160. Same as the LinkedIn. If you have your own separate profile, then you should. Otherwise, you don't need to do so. It's mostly your Instagram, your Facebook that you have to make public. WhatsApp, they have access if they want. They can ask for your phone. They will look at that. Don't need your uh, being public or not public. They do have their access. If you give them phone, they can look into your WhatsApp and regular phone information.
So the other question is, how do you explain staying with friends, relatives during our observership? So you don't need to go and declare. I mean, if they ask you, do you have a relative there? If it is a first or second generation relative, or like distant relative, you don't need to necessarily say that. But if you had stayed with some relatives and stuff like that, you can always say, I was trying to save some money, so I had a friend who offered me to stay with me, so to offer me to stay. So I took that opportunity to save money, and so that's it. And sometimes I gave a reduced rent or something to the to the person. You don't need to necessarily say they are a great friend, but I got a reduced rent. You have to show that you have provided. They're not going to. This is the whole concept. The question they're asking is, are you going to use these people make you stay back in United States? You should say the relative is probably not even I don't have great connections there, so I didn't I tried to give a reduced rent and stayed there, as if like, hey, this is not a person who is going to be helping me to stay back in the United States. That's how you explain that. And in earlier B1, B2, we talked about I got B1, B2 for purpose of visiting relatives, but only if a year later to observership. So the purpose of B1, B2 every time is analyzed at the time of entry. So you could say, okay, the each and every time you give that B1, B2 entry reason, they will put it down in their system, so they will know why you visited. Usually, if you have said that you had a relative there, then you should say, hey, there's something they wanted help with, so I went and helped them. Not like, hey, this, and then I am not planning to do a lot of contact with that relative or so. If you have to explain that, but that's how I would explain. What's the best way to explain staying in the United States after an observership while waiting for in-person interviews rather than flying back in between? Again, going back to saying that ticket prices are very high, or I'm somehow, what are they actually asking? How did you stay in there? Did you go work, or did you do some other things to earn money there? That is what they're asking. They wanted to know, did you violate the law there? I mean, it's not like, hey, how did they don't really. So you have to clearly answer that question in such a way that, hey, I stayed back to get an interview. I interview right next, these places, which I knew I could get the interview, and but I always stayed paying some rent, and I used the money which I brought from India, and didn't want to lose a lot of money by flying back and forth. And sometimes the internet connection may be patchy in place where I am. So that's why I try to stay there. That's how I would answer. I mean, if anybody else having another thought process.
Yes, I think it's a good response. Sometimes people do apply in two matches. They did not match first time, but they match this time. So you might have longer stay. So you can tell the visa officer that I applied in the previous match. I did not match. I went back and had more clinical or fresh clinical experience. If it's the first match and you stayed more than 3 months, 4 months, A simple answer, you can say that, I was following I-94 record. I wanted to have more clinical experience, more exposure to different program, different clinics, different different practices in USA, so I can gain more knowledge. That's the only response. You can't change what has happened. If you stayed there a longer time, you can't say you did not stay. So you have to give a good reason, as we have mentioned multiple times. You have to have good reason, give a record, have invitation letters or LOR from those preceptors, have a financial documentation. How did you sponsor yourself? That's very important, that you did not work. You have to convince the visa officer you did not have to work to stay there. You had funds or you borrowed from somebody, and then you should have a statement or documented proof that you did borrow or you did take money with you or you arrange a wire transfer or bank transfer.
For B1, B2 observership, staying for 179 days when prior DS 160 says 1 month as duration of stay, is it considered a red flag for J1? Anytime if you overstayed, it's a red flag. You should be able to give a great explanation in something which has happened with your travel, or something you are stuck somewhere so that you couldn't get out. So, but it's going to be looked upon as a red flag if you stayed more, for sure.
I want to mention something, Dr. Sudhakar.
Yeah. Yes, please.
When they are overstaying in that particular situation, how many days did they say? There's so many questions.
179 days when prior DS 160 says 1 month as duration of stay.
Yeah, everyone has to be vigilant about how much stay you are actually granted, because these are the problems that you're having now with these denials. If you only have 1 month, you have no right to stay in the country beyond that. You either have to get or apply for an extension, and you have to do that before the expiration of that. And you can get an extension for 6 months, but if you're declaring it, if it's for the observership, then you have to declare you're looking for a B1, and you really need to contact an attorney, because this is your life, and those few months make a difference, and it can delay you for years. So you have to be vigilant of how much time am I actually granted. When you arrive in the country, you have to go to the CBP website, and that would show you, and you pop in your passport number. It shows you your actual ability to stay in the country and what stay was granted. And if you know it's a finite amount, which is 30 or 90 days, you need to consult, with a knowledgeable person to understand what your next step is, if that is going to be, pursuing education or training in the US. So just be vigilant, and you have to get extensions. For those who don't know that, who are stuck right now, okay, we have to move forward and try to overcome, but that's one important point.
I can add to that. So what he's really saying is that he requested 1 month in his visa application, but he stayed 179 days. So response is same, that I was following my I-94 record, as Rani said, that your I-94 record will tell you how many days you can stay, which is usually 180 days. So he did go 179 day on the 179 day. So he did not overstay, but he did not honor what he requested for. That's what the visa officer having trouble. You asked for 1 month, but you stayed for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the situation. It is a unique situation. You have to talk to one of your attorneys. Be ready with the answers for that. We cannot go in very detail on that, but it is what it is. You have to have some ways to address it, and it's a red flag for sure. The observership. How do we answer questions on how we have secured observership? So this is something you could get. So observerships are offered online most of the time. So your standard answer is that many of the observerships are offered online. So I searched the internet and applied to it, and I got it. That is your standard answer. not, you shouldn't say, oh, I had a friend there who got me an interview on an observership. I had a contact there. That's kind of show them that you have a lot of contacts there, which is going to make you stay back in the United States. So yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. And there is nothing more to do that. And in particular place, how did you apply? You can always say, I got the email of this program director from the net, and I emailed the person, period. That's how.
In line with what you were saying, I think there's an important distinction that we have to also raise. People who come, even F1 students, what happens is people come to the US on a visitor's visa, and then they said, okay, I'm going to stay here or I'm going to pursue my education, even if it's an F1 student visa. These are the problems that arise. If you decide, oh, I'm really going to pursue university and take a course here or pursue a master's. If you come on a 90-day visitor visa and then you reach out or you're granted 90 days or you're granted 6 months, the bottom line is you're not allowed, if you contact a university for an F1 student visa or to find out about an education program within the first 90 days, and then you file a change of status to that F1 student visa, number one, you can't do it under 90 days. If you file a change of status to change your status from a visitor to a student visa, and I'm picking out F1 now just to highlight a particular issue. So if you try to do that, if you contact a university within under 90 days, and when you file that change of status to an F1 student visa, the USCIS will deny that case because you're not supposed to you're not supposed to engage in any other activity than being a visitor of pleasure for the first 90 days. So, if people are coming to the United States for whatever reason, if it's a visitor, for the first 90 days, you cannot engage in anything else. After that 90 days, you can then demonstrate something else. So if you want to then pursue an F1, you contact the university after that because USCIS will contact that university directly to verify what date did this individual contact you. So I don't know if that's applying with the observerships, if people are trying to change status there in these situations, but that's something to be mindful about, that if you have a predestined plan to jump into an observership on your visitor visa, that's a red flag. So, because maybe, the observership, whoever approves you, could also be questioned as to when, at some point, did they contact you? And that can be revealed, and that will go against you if it is under the 90-day period.
That's good to know. With this 90-day period, I didn't know that too. So be cognizant about that. If you change your plans within 90 days, you should have a good explanation of what happened. Maybe you went there and the observership was not available, or the one which you planned had 2 or 3, you had a month, and then all of a sudden they said, I can only do 2 weeks. And so I had to, maximize my stay. So you ended up having to contact or some really sensible answers to these kind of things. There was another one question is VOs are not asking for any documents and are rejecting visas in a minute. Well, the issue is that they have already reviewed your chart before they even show up there. So the documents you have showed they have made a lot of red flags. So that is where you need to have your documents in line so that red flags are all taken care of. Even presenting that you have a job there in India or you're going to come back for another job will be able to mitigate those kind of things. I think Dr. Fateh had something to add to it, right?
Sure. Actually, I responded that on the chat also. So you have to be very polite. Just understand that they are very young, unhappy people interviewing you. So just understand that they are in their 20s, maybe early 30s, and just be polite. Don't call them sir or ma'am. They don't like that. Just say officer. That's the one thing. And when you go for interview, say, "Good morning, officer. Hopefully you're having a good day." Just look at the officer, even if he or she is not looking at you, because they're looking at the screen through the camera. So when they ask you a question, just answer that question politely. Don't turn around and give something else. They're going to get upset and they're going to stop your interview there. When you are answering your question, and the officer want to interrupt, don't say, "Let me finish." Okay, just stop there. And then if they answer your next question, then answer the question visa officer is asking you. Don't go say, "Okay, let me finish my previous conversation, then I will start." Don't use few words that I did not understand you. Instead, say, "Officer, can you repeat that question?" Don't say that your information is wrong. Don't say anything negative to the officer. They're going to stop their interview right there. So if you have something to present, you can simply say that, "Officer, I have documents, my bank statement, or I have my letter from my previous observership. Would you like to look at?" So present that way and don't just put it on the shelf that here is that all the bunch of papers in your hand. Just ask and wait. If the officer say, "Okay, show me," then put in the bin in front of the window. Otherwise, just wait. So don't force the officer to show you something. Be polite. That's my three words: be polite, be honest, and just show that you're interested. Keep looking at. If they're asking you a question, you nod like this. Light smile is good. Those are good things that you should be doing in your interview, so the officer does not get upset and just stop your visa interview.
So one other thing I wanted to add there is, thank you, Dr. Fateh. That was actually very insightful. The other thing is, again, when you answer, there should not be ambiguous words. Like maybe, I think you should be like very clear on what you said. And I have had this occasion myself. I think I have, or I said I something maybe. It got me into a lot of trouble. I know it is. Is it this or that? They will immediately get into that. So be very clear on exactly what you say, and very no ambiguous words to not be used in that. Is saying during interview that more observership help my residency application, right? Uh, Depends. I mean, you don't need to voluntarily say that. You can always say, whatever I did has helped me to get observership, to get this into residency. You don't need to give them a stick to say, "Oh, this is what it is." You just say, um, I think what I have done is appropriate for me to get this position. That's it. Through my reason for B1, though my reason for visa in DS 120 B1 was observership, my I-94 says B2. Um, I don't know. What is though my reason for visa is in DS 160 for B1 B2 was observership, my I-94 says B2. How to deal with it?
So they probably at the port of entry did not declare it properly, and that's why it says B2.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they should have declared I'm here for, so they can get it changed if they're still here. I don't know where they
Yeah.
are. They can
But
go back and get contact the airport or you could email the CBP website, and you can have it updated if you want to declare it properly. That's one thing they could try.
okay.
Doesn't
That's
come
good
back.
that's good to know. I think if it has happened to you already, know that this is a flag you have and be able to explain if they're going to ask any questions related to that, saying that, hey, maybe so you should be saying that I probably was not clear on my intent at that time. Probably that's why it was B1 was B2 was clearly, but that I had given the observership papers to the officer at that time, but it was not probably perceived clearly. For fellows and on J1 who got J1 visa renewal denials, any specific tip for interviews? Um, Denial again. Denial major reason is, are you going to come back to India? So only thing you have to ask is you have to rain upon is saying, I am just going there to do my fellowship. I am going to be coming back to this hospital who is even sending me. That's the key point, and every answer should revolve around that. B1, B2 rejections on J1 interview. There is no, you have to be able to say that I had my rejection, and I perceived at that time this was the reason. If they ask you directly, why did you get the B1 rejected last time, which they usually don't, but if they ask you, oh, this is what I think I had at that time, which is an honest answer, but then they might follow up with it. Did something change now? Yeah, actually, after that, I got married. I had got this job here, and I like this job, and I want to come back for this job. My parents are in PR status in Canada, and dad is currently in US in F1. How to tackle if they ask about the interview? Um, well, we are planning to go back to Canada and settle. That's my plan, to go back to Canada. And why is my father in F1 there? He also wants to get more education and go back to Canada and work. Simple. Make it very simple. Don't complicate things. If parents are in Canada in work permit, in process of applying to PR, does that show poor home ties? No, you're going to Canada. You're not probably going to be in India. Or you can always say, my parents wants to go to Canada, but I really want to come back to India. So because of this reason, I have a job. I have certain things over here, my land, and so I want to come back to India. So it is for what it matters for you. That's what they're looking for. I stayed with my relatives during observership because it was in the same city. Well, you don't need to declare to them it was a relative. You stayed somewhere where I partially paid for rent, and I would rarely they would ask you. And they will ask you sometimes, say, do you have any relatives in the United States? Depending on how close you are with the relatives, like first or second generation, you can say, yes, I have a relative who is my mom's sister, and that's it. Let them ask the next question, and if you stayed with them, you should always say, "Oh, mom wants my mom was insisting that I say hi to my sister, her sister, so I visited with her and said hi, and but I moved on doing other things there." So you just show it as very simple, and I was not too keen on being there, but somebody forced me to go there, because that kind of
Let me
shows that you're not too keen on being there.
let me add a little bit to
Yes.
that. Yeah. So your relatives mostly are actually your first blood relative, your parents, your siblings, distant aunt, uncle, mamu, chacha. They're really not considered as your relative. They can't sponsor you. Even most of you have aged out. Your parents can't sponsor you for green card. So only person is your spouse. So they already know that if you have your spouse there or your parents are there. So be honest, it's not going to be a red flag. And about staying a relative, again, if you're truthful and you can provide a reason why you stayed there, if your program is in Michigan, Detroit, and your aunt, your uncle lives there, or a family friend, you can simply say that my program was just 10 minutes away from my aunt's house, so I felt comfortable staying there, and they didn't charge me anything. So that's appropriate to say that. They can't apply for your green card. So having relative in US is not a red flag. So be truthful, be confident when you answer question. Uh, and somebody asked a question about staying after observership for in-person interview. So for that, a lot of people, it happened, you're doing your observership, then you get in-person interview. So take that interview as an email or a letter, take with you. And tell the visa officer that while I was doing my observership, I was also applying for the residency match, and luckily I got an in-person interview, which have more weight than online interviews. So I wanted to honor that request of my program. So I visited my program, met faculty, met chief resident, And I luckily, if you get a match, simply say, I luckily got matched because maybe because of that interview in person. So use that situation in your favor that your state did actually help you out.
On behalf of a friend, he legally extended his initial 6 month stay for a university hospital elective with timely approval and no unlawful overstay. How should he explain this during his visa interview? Um, Technically, I would say you have not done anything wrong. You have got it right. If you ask, the only question they will ask is like, why did you stay for more than 6 months there? That's probably what they're going to ask. Then you should have a. We have explained that multiple times. You have to explain such a way. I'm being a sibling and as a citizen and parent and GC holders. How should I approach it? It's a tough one to tell you. What is Dr. Fateh's thought process on that? Having a sibling and
Sure.
a citizen and a parent are green card holders.
Yeah, that's I just said it that they can't sponsor you for green card. You aged out, number one. Number two, you're J1. So you are required to come back to India, Pakistan, whichever you belong to. So you have to come back. So only person can affect you or can keep you there is your spouse. And they already know that. So I will simply say that be truthful, say, yes, I have my sister who is working, doing residency, or I have my sister who's married to a citizen. She got a green card through her marriage. Just be truthful. There's nothing wrong. It's not a red flag for J1.
Yeah, it is not red flag, but you should say probably I'm not going to be staying back there. I really want to come back to India for the work which I love to do here. So that's all. You should circle back to that. Three B1 B2 refusal accepted in the fourth attempt for step three, but did observerships along with that for 5 months. There is no justification. How can I justify? There's no justification needed. You have to know what is the situation and be ready to answer. If you refusal each time refuse, they won't ask you obviously why did they got refused first time, second time, or third time, but they will ask you why you applied for B2 four times, and you should be able to say that for me to get trained in the United States, step three it's one thing which I needed to have completed. So I really wanted to do the step three, and it can be done only by in the United States. And luckily, when I did the step three, that is, you contacted a previous email which I had sent, had replied to me back that I can do an observership, and I just did it. The attorney was saying that you cannot go there for one purpose, and in the first, second day, third day, you can start asking, "Hey, can I do some other things?" So that's something you need to think through it when you answer. Speaking B1, B2, I heard a lot of cases where prior B1, B2 rejections have been inquired upon. Yeah, you ought to be able to explain previous rejections, and it has to make logic to why. We cannot address everything, your situation in detail unless we know the situation. But you should be able to explain intent to come back. Can I provide a financial document of my parents and spouse? Financial doc. See, anything movable in the sense, cash value. People know that. They know that it can be sold or things like that. Immovable assets are really a good way to do that. Ties like jobs, a loan from hospitals or loan from some people which you are ought to pay, or something very immovable like large amount of properties, or you are the only person who can manage this. My parents are really getting older, stuff like that. You have to figure out if you were the visa officer, how would you think that if this person is going to come back to India? That is how you have to start framing your answer for that. Movable, you have like $100,000 in the bank. They know that it's not too big. Anybody can move that around. If anyone legally extended their 6 month stay for a university elective, we talked about it and approved. We'll have through follow-up letters for helpful. Will a letter from a current employer stating that I'm welcome to? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You should get, I mean, I would say everybody should get a letter saying that, we look forward for this person to come back to our hospital and join the hospital, and that is definitely a good way to show that you're coming back. How to explain if stayed in a family friend's house? We talked about it. What if we were 1 second? Oh, I got lost here. Hey, during observership, staying with a close citizen relative with minimal expenses, we talked about it. If earlier applied for B1, B2 visa and stayed for 2.5 months, done, those are same questions again and again. Can all of us send an email directly to the embassy and consulate and ECFMG? You can definitely send emails to anybody, including the president. So it doesn't matter. And what does it being heard is a different question. So some of them will be heard for sure. What's the best way to explain staying in the United States after an observership while waiting for in-person interviews rather than flying back in between? We talked about it. Speaking of B1, B2, heard a lot of cases where prior B1, we talked about it. Can we directly message the senator directly? Yeah, in fact, it is a website for each senator that you can actually go in and put a case there. If you want to do it directly, yes, you can, and you should be very specific that you are one of the president who is coming to serve in that hospital where your senator is helping. Though my reason for visa DS20 I-25 says B2, we talked about it. Many J1 physician applicants from the Hyderabad consulate are facing prolonged administrative processing. There is nothing you can do. I mean, I got stuck for a couple of months in administrative processing. There's nothing you can do because they're trying to find some information and they will take their time. There is nothing you can do. All you can do is inform your program that you're going to get delayed, and also you should try to talk to your representatives through the program. Not, I mean, you can, but I would recommend that programs are more sway with their representatives. Again, intent change it's something you should be able to explain. Is earlier applied? Don't repeat the question, please. Emergency appointments are getting delayed. Yeah, and that's something we are background working on. As we said, it is something very prerogative of the local consulate. I hear you. Yes, observerships. Some remote work which you have done were paid through US dollars. Well, if you have declared the money in India and you paid taxes in India, then it is a work from India you have done. It is not going to be anything to be too worried about. You can always say, I worked for an American company while I was in India and I got paid and I declared taxes here. That's it. If someone legally extended their repeat to explain, I intend to come back. Can I provide for? Oh my goodness! Please don't repeat the question. Unpaid research. How to answer about unpaid research in B1, B2? Well, when you go to unpaid research, you should be able to be able to let the people know that. So come back for 2 more. I think we have covered. I don't know. Are we seeing more questions? I think I've covered almost all the questions.
I think we covered pretty much everything. There are a lot of repeat questions.
Uh-huh.
I think it's 2+ hours, and I really appreciate.
I think we should wrap
Yeah.
up. Have to really recognize these people's times and effort. So we probably, as Amit said, we can probably do another one later on, probably.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Shahzad, and thank you, Ronnie and Mandy. Thank
Yes.
you for joining from the OR. Appreciate that. And thanks everybody for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
webinar. Thank you, Dr. Kadula, Dr.
you.
Shahzad, and Dr. Sudhakaran.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Fateh.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.